thanks, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's everybody up there. You know, I'm just the guy behind the, desk.
But if you remember, we spoke in the 10th season before that. You told me about you being a block, or you being a block producer. So you're one of the 21.
Not yet.
But
we're
vying.
Yeah, we're vying for one of them. So we're actually at, I think we're around like 70 right now. To get paid, we need to be at 54. So as it stands, that might change. It all depends on like how many people are voting in total, and how many people are using the platform. So
yeah, I thought it was really thought through well. The mastermind was a great idea. We're talking about hardcore collusion. We're trying to get No, first of all, we're selling. We're selling.
We're going to get started. Thank you to everybody for coming today. We are at the Crypto Café, and today we are talking about moving into the future, blockchain technology and the arts. We are part of Techstars Detroit Startup Week, and which is going on all week. And the Crypto Café is actually open here every day at 3 p.m. Ooh. That's just so wild when you get louder on the way. But yeah, every day at 3 p.m. here at WeWork. We will be continuing on. Wednesday, we're doing smart contracts. And Thursday, Bethany Shore, who's here, is going to talk about accepting crypto as a small business. And on Friday, we're going to be talking about all the blockchain technology projects that are happening in the metro area. And all of this was created and organized by Detroit Blockchainers Meetup Group. If you are interested, you can be a newbie. You don't have to know much about blockchain technology or cryptocurrency to join. And even if you're an expert, please join us. We really want to grow the blockchain community here in Detroit. And it's already been growing quite a bit. So you can find us on Facebook or on the Meetup site, Blockchainers, Detroit Blockchainers. And we are sponsored by EOS Detroit, which EOS, if you don't know it, is a new blockchain that launched a couple weeks ago. EOS Detroit is a block producer here, and they have sponsored this wonderful event. So we have wine available because of them, and they've just helped out with organizing, and we're very thankful for them. I am Ingrid LaFleur, and I'm the founder of Afrotopia. I am also the Chief Community Officer for EOS Detroit. So please feel free to ask me any questions you have about EOS. But today, we're going to be talking about the arts. I'm so excited about this topic because we often hear about blockchain technology, but we don't really know the many uses of it. And especially when it comes to arts, I don't think that people really understand that there is a business back end to being a creative. And so now we get to talk about how blockchain technology in real life and cryptocurrency has made these creative businesses more efficient. So I'm going to begin with you. Brian Armstead is here. He is Brian J. Thrill Armstead. Is a producer programmer who's worked with the likes of D12, Talib Kweli, Aloe Black, Poe, Living Legends, Maze, Boaz, Strong Arm Steady, Far Side, Bishop Lamont, Dr. Dre, and many others. He's a Detroit native and bi-coastal resident of Los Angeles. He also consults composers and other producers on technology and sound design. He'll be talking about vertical integration and what blockchain can do to speed up the creative process and payment in the music industry. And next we have Cornelius Harris with Alter Ego Management and Underground Resistance. He is the founder of Alter Ego Management and label manager of Underground Resistance, the legendary techno collective from Detroit. I'm sure many of you have heard of Underground Resistance. Started by Jeff Mills and Mike Banks, UR has been called the heart and soul consciousness of Detroit's influential techno scene. Harris joined UR in 1995, inspired by their marriage of music and message. Cornelius is also a leading voice for growing the creative economy in Detroit. He frequently serves as the cultural ambassador of Detroit as he travels around and cultivates vital relationships within the creative industry. And he's going to talk about Underground Resistance integrating blockchain technology into their business model. And next we have Devin, Haselwood, and then Justin Ivey. And they're both from Unstable. Based out of Detroit, Unstable is founded, created, and curated by Devin, Haselwood, and Justin Ivey. With decades of output experience between them and an inherent nature to try new things, they both lead award-winning initiatives for a wide range of work that includes startups and Fortune 500 clients. Excuse me. In addition to winning the inaugural 2014 New Tech App competition, their track record ranges from big data to pure design, and from blockchain solutions to casting Jerry Lambert alongside Don Fry in a video short. They consistently execute in the spectacle of storytelling. Devin and Justin both represent a unique portion of creative and technical contributions, resulting in a cleverly balanced duo of ongoing experiments. Their foray into the exploration of abstract sensibility in art platforms and art intersections proves to yield meaningful discussions as they continue to push the boundaries of new ways in connecting with art. And finally, we have Andre Terrell. He is a DJ and a photographer and creator and publisher of the Street Pass app, which is a community hub that hosts a directory of local retail shops, restaurants, and bars and unique experiences. He has also launched his own cryptocurrency, Street Cash, which is a reward incentive for the users members of the app. Street Cash can be used to purchase our promotional prizes listed in the prize vault, which can be found on the main navigation app, streetvision.com, the Street Pass, right? Awesome, thank you guys so much for coming. If you could please give them a hand. Thank you. So if each of you could just explain a little bit about how you're using blockchain technology and cryptocurrency in your projects. We'll start with you, Brian.
Well, I'd say this. The music industry, has anybody here, are there musicians and artists in the audience? Anybody who makes music? Okay, so you know anytime you see a song that's written, you see all those slashes on the writer side. And you see all the slashes on the publisher side. Every time you see a slash, somebody has to get paid. That's a problem, because the database, there really isn't one right now, as far as like one that's central. One that's central. So what happens is, we gotta talk to your publisher, and your publisher, and your publisher to try to get everybody paid, to find out what the split sheets are when you get artists to sit down. The split sheet is how you split up how much everybody's gonna get when you write a song. It's a nightmare. And if you add like sampling or anything else in, it becomes much more of a nightmare. So at this point, blockchain, you have Potentium and a couple other, Imogen, he tried to do it with Mycelia, but what people are trying to do is figure out a way where we can create with cryptocurrency, with blockchain technology, we can create basically a database for artists and songs. You can add smart contracts on top of that. You have a system that basically polices itself for people to get paid. So instead of this label having to contact this publisher and this publisher contacting this writer, it's just all built in. So whoever you are as an artist, all your information will be, people are trying to create these things called like passports or creative, different labels are doing it differently that are trying to do it. It hasn't been perfected yet because there's no shared total global database for different artists, different places to work yet. But if people can get it there, you cut out tons of attorney fees, it'd be transparent. So right now, your average label doesn't want anybody to know how they get paid. So it's like, what's the difference between a mechanical and a performance royalty? So it's kind of like in the ether right now as far as like exactly how people would do it, but the model is there for artists to get paid and cut out middlemen and actually get paid. The streaming service is going wild. You gotta think, it's 1,500 streams for every record sale possible, but that's still the metric that people are measuring record sales by. I think like Ingrid was saying, like between art and commerce, there's a place where I think blockchain can make it so it takes the hassle out of that part of the process for artists to just be creative. So when you sit down and work with her, you don't have to say, so what's the split gonna be? What's this gonna be? You'll have all that basically slated and a passport that will follow you, almost like yesterday with the wall, like how you have your, this is what I do, this is my publishing. So when Spotify streams something, it doesn't have to worry about where to pay you, and it pay you immediately. On average, like, I don't know if most of you know this, but with performance royalties, you're usually getting paid literally a year back. So like, it takes them that long to corral your money. So if you have a song playing on the radio right now, you wouldn't get paid for it till 2019. That's when you get your money. So with blockchain technology, it could be immediate, like as far as like it build up for that currency. Again, there are issues about how to get it out. Because if we have tons of platforms, if you have a label that has all the artists and you just have it in that ecosystem, we have to figure out one that's more global to how to get them to communicate, but right now they don't. You have like performance societies like ASCAP, BMI, and they don't communicate well. And it takes forever. It's only barely like over 40% of the royalties that people get don't get like reported. So think of like, for every dollar you make, there's almost $1 out there that you didn't get. You don't have to be a starving artist. It doesn't necessarily work like that. I think with blockchain technology, it can come to fruition, and people are trying to do it. Like Potentium and other labels, seriously, like they have an ecosystem basically where it's saving not only your music and it's saving a whole profile. So the next time you were to work with somebody, it'd say like, if I wanted to sample your work, it would send me the smart contract immediately. So it just takes out the middleman of attorneys and label people who get in the way. You wouldn't have that anymore. You'd have it'd be direct to peer as far as us negotiating. You definitely there are middlemen who are important who can tell you things, but it can become more automated, where we wouldn't have to worry all the time about who's gonna get paid, how long it'll take me to get paid. So I think that'll be what's really important for the future.
Awesome, thank you, Brian, for this explanation. I think this is a great segue to Cornelius Harris and Underground Resistance.
Okay, so just a little bit of clarification is that I am the label manager for Underground Resistance. However, I also work with Submerge, and Submerge is the actual distribution company that gets the music out to people wherever they may be. Primarily, we deal with vinyl records, though we also have started doing a lot of work in digital. Before, we used to do a lot of stuff through what's called aggregators, who basically take your stuff and get it out to the different platforms. Now there's a lot of stuff you can do yourself, and sometimes it's much easier to do it yourself because the money comes directly to you. So we're in the process of switching over to that. So again, we've got the label and we've got Submerge, which is the distributor. And Submerge distributed not just Underground Resistance, but Metroplex, Transmat, Planet E, a ton of different labels out of Detroit. We're all running through Submerge. Back in the day, it was a great business. Business was great. At one point, we were moving more units, just units, not necessarily money, but moving more units than, according to DHL, than any other company except for General Motors. So business was good. Techno became this global music, and sold records all over the planet in large quantities. We had a team of people working there. However, what happens over time is that people get burned out, they drop out of things, and so you're left with fewer and fewer people. What happens is those fewer and fewer people end up doing 3, 4, 5 different jobs, and then you start having problems. And one of the huge problems we had in terms of being a distributor is the accounting and being able to get back to people on how much had been sold, how much they were supposed to be getting. And so it was something that became more and more of an issue as time went on, basically because people were burned out. You know, we had one person trying to handle not just the distribution, but the accounting as well, and getting back and forth with the labels and the artists and this, that, and the other. And it just really became a mess. So blockchain ended up becoming the answer for what we were dealing with. And basically, if you understand the basis of blockchain, you know, you have this stuff, you have ledgers, and you kind of map out kind of who gets what. You can say, okay, this particular record that's coming out, you know, 5% goes to the distributor, the other 95 gets split between the label and then this particular artist on the label, or maybe there's 2 artists who are on this particular release. But what happens with blockchain, and this was great about it, is that when something sells, number one, because the percentages are all out there, everyone knows exactly how much they're supposed to get. Everything is transparent, so there's no secret about who got what or anything like that. But also, you can get paid on a regular basis. There's no need for accounting anymore because all the accounting is built into the actual system itself. So at any point, you can look at it, see what's sold, and see how much you're getting. You can see what anybody else is getting, and it's all a lot easier. So it just eliminates a lot of different levels of bureaucracy and administration that, truth be told, we didn't have at the time. We don't have right now. So that's been the whole motivation for us to transition, and we're in the process of actually launching our new website, which will be fully using blockchain to actually make sure that people get paid on a regular basis, and it's no longer a question or a mystery.
I have a quick follow-up question. Is it expensive to use blockchain technology? Like, what does that process look like in a real world, in a way?
The cost is work. That's the cost. Honestly, that's really where your expenses. Really, it's not. It's not like it's an expensive endeavor to get into, but you do have to take some time to figure it out. And given that we've got different percentages for different labels and different artists and things like that, all of that stuff has to be coded into it. However, once it's done, you don't have to worry about it anymore. So a release comes out, you know, if it's out now, 10 years from now, whatever, it doesn't matter because that information is there.
Are you using a particular blockchain or an application, like, just for clarification?
Well, we don't put all of it out there. But the thing is, you know, there's a lot of different platforms, and kind of like what he was saying, there's no standard way of doing it. What we're doing is really just what we're doing within our setup. It doesn't necessarily integrate with anybody else's, but we're not at that point yet, I think, with the technology where there is some kind of standard that everybody uses. There might not be one, but that's okay because it just has to work for you.
Well, you could create the standard. How about that? I mean, you created the standard for techno, didn't you?
Ah. Thank you, yes.
So this is Unstable with Justin and Devin, and you guys are going to explain how you use blockchain technology.
Yeah, I'm Justin. This is Devin. Devin actually built our blockchain platform, so I'm going to let him drag you into the weeds a little bit later. But what Unstable is it's a fine art platform for unique prints that explores the intersection of interpersonal connection and connecting with the artist in a new sort of way. And what we've done is traditionally when a gallery or a studio does an edition art print run, it works off of a master copy artwork, where there's a master artwork and then copies are derived from that particular original. The way we're working is Unstable works with a portfolio of elements, and we've attached an interface to these elements, 25 elements to be exact, and comes up with a potential combination of just over 3,000. But we work with either a timed edition or we set an edition for how many to control the scarcity. But what's unique, and then the patron can interface with the elements, and then what they can do is curate their own print, their own one, which effectively becomes a one of a kind, or every print is a unique art print. And what's unique about Unstable is that the print itself, the hard copy, the in real life object, almost becomes the second prize, because what you're really getting is that you actually own the art. When you configure that composition, you own that art. You own that particular composition. And with our blockchain, effectively our compositions, the unstable compositions, the unstable artworks are natively born into our blockchain. So that's what's being stored into our data. And along with, there's obviously the bigger provenance and authenticity conversation that we'll get into in a little bit. But really, it's your art, your possession of that art is being stored into the blockchain. And then you also have this really nice fine art print to go along with it, so you can hang on your wall. And getting into that provenance and authenticity conversation a little bit, with art provenance, typically the main things that are tracked are ownership, which is the provenance. It's exhibition history, it's location and kind of its paths of travel. Any literary references to that particular work of art, which you can think of as kind of like the reference links in the bottom of a Wikipedia entry that kind of helps build that story of authenticity and shapes the reality of what's being talked about. And then finally, what we call the vitals, which is like the size, dimensions, acrylic on canvas, oak frame, on and on, all those particular kind of physical and mechanical descriptions. And these things are not only with the art itself, the original composition being stored in the blockchain, but all these kind of four elements also are perfect for being stored in the blockchain. Where you're talking about a certification platform, where you're talking about ownership and immutability and universal agreeability. % of all that artwork is being mislabeled and isn't being transferred correctly. So this is, there's a lot of gray area when you get into this discussion about provenance and art authenticity. And obviously art authenticity will drag you into a much deeper discussion about, what is art and what composes that. But we have our proprietary blockchain that with each artist that we collaborate with, and for our inaugural collaboration, we collaborated with Tyree Guyton of the Heidelberg Project, just in my opinion, the most iconic artists to emerge from the city of Detroit, and it's been an honor to work with them. And these sort of things, when they come up in provenance, are you know, the details that can be managed together. So yeah, I think that's about it in a nutshell.
Awesome. And the website is Unstable.art. So if you want to look it up, and if you want to create your own limited edition now, right? You're live.
We are open for business.
Yeah.
We had our private launch back in April that Ingrid was at, and we met up with Ingrid, and we're just now getting into the marketing phase where we're starting to get the word out. So yeah, feel free to swing by. Tyree's going to be signing first prints next week. So
That's
pretty
awesome.
excited.
So Devin, can you tell us about how you built this?
Yeah, it's a blockchain that I've been working on for the last couple years, and it's specifically for art authenticity and provenance. So with art, you know, things like how to store people's information where it's secure, where you can still have a publicly available digital ledger, but people's actual private information is totally obscured. So there's a lot of, you know, a lot of different cryptography all involved through it, just to keep the sensitivity that art has.
This is key because I don't know how many of you know about the art world. The art world is not transparent. It is an unregulated market. And so in terms of having some sort of level of transparency, it's actually really revolutionary and absolutely needed in terms of artist rights and ensuring that they know where their artwork is. And then also, we've been talking about uses for galleries. So someone suggested that you can create a smart contract with your gallerist, which determines when and how the money that is generated from your artwork is spent by the gallery. So it can't just be, you know, in the ether, and your gallerist, you know, will pay you at some point. So that's a pretty big problem actually for a lot of visual artists who have gallery representation. So there's lots and lots of uses, and I think this is going to be really great. We're probably going to hear a lot more from Devin over the years. The art world probably will embrace you, I hope.
Yeah, so far it's been very exciting so far.
That's great.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, Andre, I've known Andre for many years. I've been to many of his parties. Please definitely follow him. And I was surprised to learn that you created your own token. Please tell us more.
Yeah, so I'm probably the least qualified person. I feel like I'm listening to the Japanese language because I don't know a lot about cryptology or blockchain technology. But what happened was that I started a company, streetvision.com, which was a promotional vehicle to promote different businesses. Originally it was African American network of businesses. I was the connection guy back in the day. If you wanted a plumber, they would call me, hey, you know a plumber, or you know an electrician, or somebody, you know, whatever. So I said, why don't I compile, you know, a directory listing of these businesses that I have these relationships with. I did that, and of course, you know, as the African American community, we hadn't really crossed the digital divide. So I kind of set back on it a little bit and kind of reinvigorated it. I did the pictures at the parties and put them online. I would code the pictures before we had the galleries, the smug and things like that. So I would go home at night and code and edit video and try to get people, you know, to log on and check out these videos. Of course, we had dial-up then, and I would upload a video, go to sleep at 3 o'clock and wake up at 8 o'clock and it's still uploading. So fast forward, I kind of set back, got a regular job, technology caught up. I kind of brought streetvision.com back out into the forefront. And with that, it was a membership card called the Street Pass. You get this they had launched their own card that was the same thing as what I was doing. I didn't know they knew each other. It's like, wow, it's crazy. So I had been reading about mobile apps at the time and Web 2.0, so I decided to take the concept, all the content, and put it into an app. So now the card is basically the app. So with that, the exchange of how to navigate those users as members. So I played with it a little bit, and now as a user, or if you just have the app, the Street Pass app, you're a member. Then I incorporated the benefits of being a VIP member. Then blockchain technology came, and actually fast forward, I created Street Cash paper currency. So I had my little baby picture on it, it was $10, and I would give them away. You would log onto the app, download the app, and find out where you can use it and spend it at. So I was promoting it online. Another friend had introduced me to a guy who was in London, and we had never really connected on what we were doing. And then fast forward a year or two later, I posted a picture of the Street Cash currency, and he inboxed me and said, hey, why don't you do cryptocurrency? I said, oh, okay, well, if you can do it, knock yourself out. Let's partner up. That partnership really dissolved quickly because I found that he was creating this currency, these tokens, and it wasn't a 50-50 deal for me because he sent me some of the currency that he created as Street Cash for me, for my program, but he kept all of it. I was like, well, that don't make sense. So now I'm studying cryptology and cryptocurrency, blockchain, and the ICO and all this. He now has control of all of that content, and, you know, the ICO and everything. So if he launched it, he would have control. So I'm sitting on little nuggets that he gave me with anticipation of it growing into whatever it's supposed to grow into. So I'm a fast study, a quick learner. I got online, started studying, and then I developed and launched my own cryptocurrency. Now I have control of that. So the idea right now of the currency is a reward system for the members and the VIP members. Of course, as a member, you get a certain amount, and as a VIP member, you get more. So by shopping at the businesses that are listed in the directory and attending the events, also as a DJ, I'm promoting myself. You attend those events, I have pop-up happy hours, different experiences. Any money that you spend at those events will match it in cryptocurrency. So you spend $10 at an event, we'll give you 10 tokens. You spend $100, we'll give you 100 tokens. So we're driving the market that way. And in absence of the ICO, the initial coin offering, I kind of forego that, but I'm passing that on to the members because there's an up fee or fee for a membership. And it's small right now, it's like $20 for the year. You become a VIP member. So when you attend these events, you earn extra. You earn like 3 tokens for every $1 that you spend. Ultimately, you will be able to spend the money at the businesses that accept it. And that's something that I found with cryptocurrencies. The value comes from people using it and giving it value. Saying, hey, I'm gonna buy this service from you and I'll accept this. And the more times that happens, the currency grows in value. So now if you've attended a bunch of events over the years and accumulated this cryptocurrency, and then at some point you could virtually off it, sell it for Ethereum, and then cash out and things like that. But I just found it a very exciting way to create an engagement of a community that I've developed and create actually value in using the businesses and events that you see in the app.
How is it being received?
It's being received pretty well. People are excited about it, but now, you know, I talked about a digital divide before. Now it's even a bigger divide, because when I talk about cryptocurrency, they're like, what? They get it, they've heard of Bitcoin, but they're like, what does this do? And this is someone I would definitely love to speak with. How do you use it in a retail environment? Because it's a peer-to-peer network. So if I say go to the store and the guy who's basically controlling that peer-to-peer network is not there, how do they do that transaction in the store? You know, who validates the ledger once the process happens? So those things that I've been kind of tweaking and pulling back and pushing for, and again, that's what brought me to the point system at this point. So now I may get a dinner for 2 for a restaurant, and you attend these events and you accumulate 300 tokens, and you can basically buy that dinner or buy I'm also a photographer, and you might buy some photographic services from me using cryptocurrency, using my street cash. So as a business, if you accepted it, you could also spend it back with me for more marketing services. So if I was to get a business to sign up and say they accepted it, I would allow them to spend it back with streetvision.com or the Street Pass to do some additional marketing for the business that they're already doing.
How difficult was it to create your own token?
It wasn't very difficult. Like I said, I'm a fast study, and I was against the clock because I saw what the guy, the ex-partner, was doing, and that just kept me up all night for nights and nights and nights. So it really took me, after studying and learning, a week to launch, Street Cash. So it wasn't difficult really at all.
Thank you. So we're going to open it up to the audience. Please let me know if you have any questions. I will bring you the mic. We are live streaming. Hello, everyone.
All right, how's everybody? Quick question for Unstable. Are you utilizing 721 tokens for the actual, I guess, management of the art? I don't necessarily know if that's the right question to ask.
Yeah, the way we're managing the actual, how we're taking the physical to the digital is we actually have that all baked into our proprietary blockchain. So we're not using, currently some of these standards, as they're evolving more and more, we'll probably look to that, especially how you're starting to see some standards to be able to interoperability between different blockchains and things like that. But right now, it's fully just baked in, and our blockchain really is just focused on art, authenticity, and provenance. So we don't have a lot of the issues of trying to take, an existing larger ecosystem, like an Ethereum or something like that, where you have other things going on, so that there's all these different standards coming up to be able to do things like that. So ours really is just right into the actual, core of our product.
So your blockchain does not have a cryptocurrency associated with it. It's more just
correct.
A supply chain.
Yeah, and it's like what we're doing is we're using it really as this digital ledger of art that really that has the structure and authenticity that a blockchain gives you, and then also being able to have parts of it digitally publicly available so that people can see that different artwork was purchased. But we're protecting the actual who's purchasing it, the price of the purchase, things like that, so that people who are very sensitive to that don't have to have their information out publicly for that transaction.
What would the fee be, or like, what's the business model in regards to Unstable in general? Like, is there kind of flesh that out for me if you can?
Right now, we're focused on our unique print edition, and so the blockchain kind of ties that all in. So we're selling print. So we're not only a blockchain creator and producer, but we're also kind of like a digital gallery. So it's helping our digital gallery part of our business to be able to have this extra authenticity and provenance and all these other things that go with that. As we move forward, it's very likely that we'll split that out into a whole separate, just straight art blockchain.
Yeah, the question
sorry about that. So I have a question about musicians and implementation of blockchain. So how is it gonna, who's gonna have to implement it? Let's say you're an independent artist like Tekashi 6ix9ine from New York. He was purely independent and is killing on the Billboard charts. Or like Kendrick in the beginning, he had his own label.
Oh, but you gotta ask yourself this question too, like, what's true indie? Because now everything is digital and you have metrics. So like, an independent artist, I mean, at a certain point, what you're more concerned with is how people would get paid, how he would, like if you were to create at least a passport system, you would have each song. So just say you were to do a song with Tekashi 6ix9ine, right? And so you would know how much he would charge you for a feature on the song, what his publishing split is. So everything would be assigned beforehand. I think the biggest thing is there's no transparency in music, how artists get paid. I would probably say it is the biggest medium where the people who create it get the littlest chunk of the pie. It's nothing close to it. Like, it's actually the inverse of the film industry. Because the people who get paid the most in the film industry are the people who have the least skin in the game. Like, an actor gets paid whether it comes out or not. Denzel Washington, when he got paid $20 million for American Gangster, they didn't even have it in the can. They thought they might not make it, but he got paid. You can be an artist and you won't get paid. That's the biggest thing. When she talks about transparency, it's the one industry where they don't want you to know how the money works. As one famous manager told the people at ASCAP when one of his artists was there, don't tell my artists shit. Because they don't want anybody to know how it works. And it takes so long to get a handle on the way that publishing works. And even master uses, like what you're talking about with authentication. I was asking somebody about this yesterday, authenticating masters, because now everything is digital. So if me and you work on a song together, and then Lifetime wants to buy it for a sync license, who has the master? You or me? Nobody knows. So now we're in litigation over a master. We could authenticate a master with blockchain. So it's tons of applications for the music industry. It's more just about how people get paid. It's hard because we have to create a global database for people who buy and sell, but I mean, you could do it kind of like in pockets with labels, like you could have like underground resistance and other stuff, and they would have the currency. They would have the currency like
Could using SoundCloud be beneficial, where a lot of artists, they publish their music on SoundCloud?
But SoundCloud would be part of it too, because every metric would be part of your, so whenever SoundCloud or anybody plays that song, they know who to pay. Like that's the biggest thing for me. Like, so when SoundCloud pays somebody, they say, okay, we know to pay him, and it goes to you automatically, because the blockchain is keeping all the information for that song about who needs to get paid and when. I mean, it's still things to suss out, because that's the biggest part of it, but the technology is there to make sure that artists get their money, because that's the biggest thing. Like that master authentication, I think is the biggest thing. I didn't even want to say that to people because I thought I could maybe like get a jump on people with it. But I'm just saying, for me, I've just seen it so many times. You know, it's like people now, there's no such thing as a master. And I know people who own songs like Heard It Through the Grapevine because they own the master. Like in a record deal, that's why they give you an advance, so the record company can own the master. That master reel is important because whenever somebody, like a Super Bowl commercial, that master reel is worth like $500,000. There you go. So for that one use, it's worth that much. So people have to keep that in mind. That's kind of where I come.
Yeah, so here's the question. Earlier, specifically for you, my friend, you mentioned a metric. It was like, was it 15,000 streams equals a record sale?
Well, that's the way the music industry, that's the way they correlate. That's not what it is, because now you can go platinum with streams and other metrics.
Right. So talk to me about
because
the equivalency between.
They're shady. That's the equivalency. That's it. It's an industry where they don't ever want any transparency. Like, to talk about it's such a terrible industry monetarily. Yeah, pirating, stuff like we were just talking about this. Like, so your label could print, it could be 20,000 copies of your record that pop up in Japan, right? These are minute copies. They'll claim they're bootlegs, right? They're not bootlegs. The label has printed these and they're selling them. It's the way people collateralize music. Like, you have so many people who get paid. You have publishers, performance rights societies, so you have all these people around the world. So your song could be getting played right now in Kazakhstan. I got a check for $300 for a song that was playing in Kazakhstan. I didn't even know that was happening, but you pay so many people in the chain. But with blockchain, instead of worrying about ASCAP talking to Cobalt to get your money in Kazakhstan, it's just on there. So when Kazakhstan plays it, you get paid.
So a follow-up. So we're talking about an artist, the core challenge is a tool for artists to monitor the distribution of their content.
And monetize, because if we say, because the split sheets are a big problem with artists, and the industry is so bad because whenever you sit down to work with people, we figure out who gets what. Like if you write the song and he just plays the bass line and she writes most of the words, it's like the way you split it up when you do it, it can get convoluted. But if you do it right then with blockchain, it can be really simple. Like, or you can say, this is my typical rate, and you will have different things you can input. Like, they tried to come up with it, Imogene Peak, this artist in Britain, tried to come up with it with a label she had, My Shelley. She's been going around the world trying to get artists to join, right? And she creates this creative passport that basically gives all of your information for everything you could possibly do. Like, if you want this music for this. So it's basically you check the boxes and it would send, you get paid accordingly, it'd do it accordingly, it'd send to Spotify, this is the new song. So all the stuff about worrying about getting a hold of somebody to do something and every step it takes to do anything, you're cutting out the steps so you can just be creative and collect your money. Like smart contracts, like she said, would be extremely important because you have another thing, the label Potentium, they have the thing where basically their artists, files are loaded for sampling. So when you're part of that ecosystem and you sample, you see the smart contracts terms, and then you can choose whether or not you accept. It's super easy. It's not like I gotta contact this person. If you were ever just part of that, every song you hear ever, if you just understand how much work it takes to get you a song to buy, yeah.
So how do you incentivize those big players to take on your technology?
I mean, with our situation, it's kind of easy because it's like if we're going to distribute your stuff, you become a part of that. I will say that, what we do is I will put out there that what we do is we basically run it through PayPal. And I got different issues with PayPal, but it's just a simple way of doing it. We're just looking for simplicity's sake. So what happens is if you're going to have something come through our distribution, you have to have an email and be able to get your stuff through PayPal. And what happens is your money comes in automatically. That's just what we set up as our standard right now. Yeah, something might change in the future. It very well could. And then we just basically notify folks, hey, look, we need this information to do this. But that's part of what we were talking about earlier with there not being one particular standard. The incentivization basically becomes in terms of just whatever you've got. And basically, if I want to participate in your particular business, and I understand that I need to do X, Y, and Z to do that, then I do it. It's like you want to get information from a particular company, you got to sign up for their email list. You can't say, well, I want to get the information, but I don't want to be on the email list. Well, you have to. So that's kind of how this works right now. The incentive is that you wanted to be a part of it in the first place. So we really don't need to get into that. The issue sometimes, and it's funny in talking about this stuff and music, one of the things about music is that there's so many areas where money comes in and goes through, but people don't keep track of it. And a lot of times artists don't want to keep track of it because they feel like, they just want to be creative people and they don't want to get caught up in the business. I can't tell you the number of times I've had conversations with people about publishing and how many artists, some well-established artists who don't have publishing. There are some very popular hit songs out there that have not been actually published. And so there's all of this money that's floating around that these people won't get because they just don't want to do the paperwork. They don't want to go through that. They don't want to be bothered with it for whatever reasons. So it's an issue. It's very much an issue. But I think that in terms of, my conversation with the artists that I work with is always about business and saying, look, if you really want to do this, if you really want to make money doing this, you have to treat it like a business, and it's not a choice. You have to have publishing. That's not something where, do you feel like having publishing or not? No, you have to have publishing.
And not cutting out middle people who are necessary. Like legal people are still necessary. It's a lot of stuff you need to negotiate.
currencies, right? There's, you know, Bitcoin and there's huge advantages, like you're saying, to the transparency, the accounting, the speed. But my limited understanding is that, you know, like, for example, Bitcoin, there's only so many coins, and that thing moves like a currency. Like, you know, like you probably don't want pesos some days, right? In Mexico, where, you know, it's jumping up because of inflation or it's dropping down. There's a certain amount of movement just in the currency itself based on like a stock or a speculation or something like that. And so what I don't understand is I can see the advantage, obviously, to somebody like the music industry or artists of getting paid, but I guess I don't have a good feeling about, the risk, or how would I evaluate the risk between a Bitcoin and I don't know what the other 5 standards are. I mean, obviously, if I see Microsoft taking this version of cryptocurrency, I'm like, well, you know, that's probably a good one, or maybe better than something else.
That
but
happened with Ripple, though.
Yeah.
And it's not a good coin, though. It's not. But again, that's perception. You know, people support it, and Amazon was going to support it, and other people were going to support it. But like, it's not totally decentralized, and the dudes who own it own 60% of it. So at any time, they can flood the market and lower the price of the coin. When it went to $4, that was a pump and dump. That was just a bunch of dudes saying, we control the currency. We'll do it. If you look at the market cap of it, when it got to like 121, you're like, yo, it started at like 20, like literally in 2 months. In 2 months, it went from like 40 to 121, and it was fat. That some of that, the speculation.
Yeah, I just don't know how to, how you would evaluate. How do I evaluate, one cryptocurrency versus another? I can see the advantage of it, but I don't want to use Joe's Bar and Grill cryptocurrency.
Right. It's one of the things that I think that we gotta also be clear is that cryptocurrency is associated with Bitcoin, or I'm sure it's related with blockchain. But the thing is, they're not. One isn't required for the other. Basically, the blockchain is the technology behind that, and so what we're talking about is actually using that technology in these other ways. So the truth of the matter is, you don't have to, decide that you're going to invest in Bitcoin or any other kind of cryptocurrency in order to use blockchain. That's not required, okay? So I understand what you're saying, and some people, have these questions, and that's fine. But what I'm saying is that doesn't necessarily apply to like what we're doing. We're simply saying that, look, here's a way to get artists paid, and to be very clear about how they're being paid. They're getting paid. No, they're getting dollars. They're getting dollars. There's no other, situation with that. They're getting dollars. Well, there's again no cryptocurrency. Now here's the thing: the dollar itself moves up and down every single day. And right. So what I'm saying is that we do business. We buy stuff from here. If something here costs $1.50, it's going to be $1.50 tomorrow, and the next day, the next day. It doesn't. There's no need for it to change price every day, unless something kind of crazy happens. And usually, you might see that maybe once a year, the price goes up or whatever else. It usually doesn't go down. But that's just what that is, and that's based on the value of the dollar. When things got bad here in the States, people in Windsor suffered because, Windsor was getting business based on the fact that the U.S. dollar was worth more. When the U.S. dollar went down, people stopped going over to Windsor, and Windsor suffered for that. So you're going to get fluctuations in any kind of currency. So that's just a given part of the world and doing trade and doing business. But again, if you've got concerns about cryptocurrency, which is just another type of currency, you honestly don't have to worry about that, because what happens is, if I say that this particular piece of vinyl is going to sell for $8, it's going to sell for $8. And if you're going to get, $5 out of every one that sells, you're going to get $5 out of every one that sells. Now, How much is your $5 worth? You know, that depends on the government and industry and all kinds of other things. So, but you're going to get your money. You're going to get your $5. And that's going to be worth whatever $5 is worth on any particular day. So it doesn't really, they're two different things.
And you may be using Bitcoin or currency, Bitcoin or, you know, silver coin or whatever these, you know, several standards are.
We're not doing that right now. You know, I mean, and that's something that, you know, we'll look into in the future, but right now we're not doing that. We're just doing it based on U.S. currency.
Yeah, you can build on blockchain. You can build on blockchain and not have to get involved with tokens and cryptocurrency. Like what we're doing with art, like the value, our medium of exchange is U.S. dollars, and then the value is in the art. You know, if you want to get a little esoteric like that. But yeah, I mean, blockchain has infinite plethora of possibilities and executions, and we are so early in on the curve of how it's being interpreted and implemented and executed, and that's kind of what's so exciting about music and the arts and the greater umbrella, is that you're going to see people, you know, looking at it through a different lens and how this can be interpreted to, you know, where the value can be extracted, and, you know, and from an individual. Guys getting together in a closed room saying, you know, we got a bunch of these, and, you know, we're gonna dump them when it gets to here, and sort of thing. But I think the big point is, and this is a common discussion thread, is that blockchain and Bitcoin are not the same thing, and can be extracted from each other. Specifically blockchain. You know, that's the iceberg beneath the surface, really.
Hi, my name is Eric, the founder of Quantum Blockchain. And thank you, panelists, for making time to come up here and kind of give a little insight of what you're doing individually and also on a broader sense. My question is, as a solution, any one of you can take the question. As a solution, are we trending towards artists tokenizing their music in a way as an asset before they release it out there for people to access via whatever platform?
Repeat the question.
Okay, let's say now, master used to be really valuable, right? That was an asset in some form. That's, yeah. So we're in a digital, you know, period now where when you release, you're vulnerable to all kinds of dubiousness out there. It could be someone out there in China, Japan, you know, having a copy of it and a bootleg copy of it and what have you. What I'm saying now, could music be released in a tokenized version? Kind of with all the encryption and everything embedded?
No, I was going to say that I think that something like that was tried at one point.
Which one you had?
Where you had what was called digital rights management on digital files, and it really didn't work because for a lot of different reasons. You know, I've got the music, and I want to play my music on this device versus that device versus the other, and then all of a sudden I've got all these restrictions on what I can do with it. You know, I'm trying to copy it to put it on into something that I can play in my car, and now, you know, I got an issue with that. Again, it was tried, and it just wasn't very popular. It didn't work.
Yeah, too, based on copyright law, honestly, this is what most people don't understand. Like, if you buy Thriller, you can copy it for personal use as much as you want. You can make 20 copies of Thriller, keep one in your car, one at your mom's house. Not anymore? Because I thought as long as it was for personal use and not for replication, like, you could...
That's where it's...
Yeah. It was because I was saying just for him, that was the problem with DRM. Like, if you got one iPod, if you don't take that iPod that has it on it, you couldn't play it anywhere else. like you would have problems. So when you say that, if you do the signature, how do you prove everywhere that it's you, unless everything has to have like an interface to make, yeah, that might be tough, to make it so like the security, yeah, that would be tough when you think about it.
Look
Yeah.
at it from this angle, okay. You go on SoundCloud and upload the music. If I upload it in a trip, okay, I'm looking at it from this angle. If I release it in a tokenized or an assetized, format, for someone to access, one has to pay for it.
Right.
So you have to obtain some kind of an encrypted, key to access that, value. I've turned it into an asset. To access that asset, which is in a digital form.
So you would have to have two-factor authentication everywhere you go, though, with it. So you're saying like you. Like a dongle, almost like a dongle, more like you can take it to your car, but you.
Are we? Okay, let me kind of refine it a little bit. You have, like let's say I'm releasing an album, I have like 12 tracks on it, and I want to upload it on either iTunes or any of the platforms. When I do that, I don't have much control over it. After whatever goes, when the upload takes place, you have limited control over what happens to it on iTunes and other platforms as well.
Yeah,
I'm saying, like to have some kind of control, and also, are we trending towards music being released in a tokenized way? An artist could decide, okay, I'm going to assetize my music.
So how I understand it is I don't think you can do that because they're two different transactions. It's the value, you validating the ledger of the value, and then you're saying, okay, that debt has been made or I accept it, and I'm going to give you the item. Now to transfer that through cryptology, I don't know. I don't know if anyone has an idea about that.
Okay, because it's decentralized. If it's in a tokenized version, that means whatever happens with that music, I'm kind of in the loop in a way.
Right. Here's the problem. Let's say you buy, again, a vinyl record or a CD.
Yeah.
Once that's done, that's pretty much the end of it. So if you sell me a CD and then I decide I'm going to sell it to him, and I sell it to him for whatever reasons, he wants a CD because it's rare, he pays me 20 times the amount that you would have got.
Okay, let's do it this way.
You're not part of that.
Music is so valuable to artists. Are we trending towards this, that valuable commodity becoming an asset in a way to an artist?
No.
But you know what? No, the part about the protection is protecting yourself against the people who say they're working with you and robbing you blind. So it's like, okay, I just want protection to make sure that when we enter an agreement, labels, publishers, everybody else, that everybody is above board, other artists, and everybody gets paid. Because it would be hard to, I get what you're saying, but I'm like you said, now people are trending toward wanting other items like vinyl. Vinyl and tapes are huge right now. Like people are buying them, so it's like, if you buy that, yeah, you don't control it once you get it. I think that's the main thing. And like you were saying about the thing about how does it create value in currency, the thing about what he's doing that's amazing to me is he's creating it locally with people. Like no matter what the dollar does, if everybody that opts in his, like the restaurants and everybody else opts in, it doesn't matter what it's doing outside of the ecosystem because they're still getting the value.
Let me just jump in. Let me just jump in with your question, okay? So I have a lot of expertise with digital marketing and digital marketing content and cloud computing. And so when you look at like Microsoft, right, and the Azure cloud, or you look at Amazon, the AWS cloud, or Google and the, their cloud and IBM's, I mean, those guys really care about themselves getting paid, right? And so like Adobe and digital marketing, but what you're seeing is a trend, right, within cloud computing is the ability to personalize content down to the, like the word level, right? And so from a trend perspective, Microsoft is tokenizing the crap out of like everything, right? And so that tokenizing does in fact allow you some permissions to say who can access my content that I create, what they can do with it, and when that can expire, right? So like I work in the startup business and I want to show my pitch deck. Instead of music, I'm showing my pitch deck, but if I have an NDA with somebody, you know, I only want to show them my pitch deck like one view, right? Or 2 views or something like that before I take that thing down, right? But what you're seeing overall as a trend is it used to be cookies, right? Where you would go to a shopping site and you would see this, and then for the next, you know, three days you're seeing, you know, fishing stuff or golf stuff or whatever you're looking at. Now it's really tokenizing, plus they know who you are. But that gives you permission as a publisher. But again, those guys are talking to each other. So it's almost above, to me, it's above the Bitcoin conversation or the cryptocurrency conversation. And it's more about the alliances between these cloud vendors, and everything is going up into these 5 clouds. I don't know if that helps or not, but.
It helps a little bit, but I think, you know, it's still not, maybe when I'm kind of a problem approach here.
Okay, one last question.
Yeah, I mean, firstly, I will go with a quick comment on what you just asked, and probably I have a couple of questions for you. Yeah, I think what you're probably asking is, I will actually rephrase it in a different way. So I mean, even we are planning for an ICO, so that's why I can make a quick comment on what he's saying. So I mean, when you said whether you want to tokenize, basically, first of all, you have to decide, you're going for a security token or a utility token. And the moment you say you are tokenizing, I think that very second you are getting into the crypto world, because a token is, at the end of the day, a crypto token. And now, if it's a security token, basically what that means is you want to sell the token, take the money, and create an asset. Now, that could be any number of record labels or whatever. Or you could take the money and create a platform wherein, whatever token you have sold can be the mode of exchange. Now, in that way, you have created a utility. So, clearly you need to define what you are asking for. And our understanding and experience in the whole thing has been yes, there is a huge regulatory implication of the whole thing, because SEC in US has clearly, identified, what is a security token and probably what is a utility token. They have said Bitcoin is a utility token. So, yes, so Bitcoin, and just recently, a couple of weeks back, they said Ethereum is also a utility token, which means these tokens don't have to follow any SEC regulations. But if you're taking money to create asset, like if you guys are creating any albums or something, you will have to answer to the questions which, SEC is probably asking for. And they already started, sending subpoenas and all, because, you are basically, asking people's money and creating something. So you need to be responsible to those people who are giving you money to what you have created. And why the whole trouble is because 90% of these transactions were fraud. I know of an ICO wherein, somebody took $25 million and the whole business model was just, selling bananas in Philippines. And why that guy raised $25 million to sell bananas in Philippines is, something completely incomprehensible. So, there is a different aspect is what I understand. Yeah, and my last question is, to you guys. Firstly, I couldn't identify the blockchain. You guys have created a blockchain, I understand?
Yeah, it's a proprietary blockchain. We don't do any crypto transactions in it from a financial standpoint.
Right.
All our transactions are all art-based, so it's all about the origin of art, the provenance, and using the blockchain to be able to manage that so that we can go back and have a very certified point in time that this particular piece of art was purchased, this was transferred to this individual, and then we have some rules around that so that you can publicly see all these transactions, but you can't see the actual players involved. But when that transfer of artwork happens, that's when that opens up, so that, you know, when he goes and transfers a piece that he bought from us to me, we now can see that because we both agreed to see our information. So what we're doing is really outside of having any type of, like, you know, using blockchain for monetary type transactions. We're really just using it to manage these physical licenses for these pieces of art that we're doing.
Yeah, so that means I can't be launching like a token or something.
Right now, that's correct. Yeah, I mean, we're strictly focused on authenticity, provenance for art.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for our questions. You are welcomed, of course, to speak with our speakers after we're done. I just want to invite Margot Brunert up for one announcement about Next Generation America.
How are you all today? Thank you. As we all know, politics and economics go hand in hand. I am here from Next Gen America. I am the Wayne County organizer, and we're charged with essentially doing two things here today. One, if you are not a registered voter, please register to vote. If you are a registered voter, we would like to find out what issues are important to you for this upcoming election. The primary is on August 7th, and the election is on November the 6th. This is a very unique time. It is not only politically charged within our country, but there's a demographic shift that has happened with this 2018 election, and that millennials, people who are 18 to 35, will essentially outnumber baby boomers. So now is the time to make the shift and the change. So if you have an opportunity on your way out, please sign a Pledge to Vote card, take a picture with our hashtag prop, and thank you very much.
Thank you. And this is important. Nate Talbot quickly mentioned it. There's some legislation and state legislators that are looking at cryptocurrency and blockchain technology in ways that make we understand that they're not informed about the technology. So it's really important to definitely inform our politicians, any candidates, so that they can make better decisions, so that we can do this wonderful work that we're doing with this emerging technology. So again, I want to thank Brian Armstead, Cornelius Harris, Devin Haselwood, and Justin Ivey, and Andre Terrell for speaking with us today and sharing your knowledge. We really, really appreciate it. I want to thank WeWork for hosting us, WeWork Campus Marshes. And of course, I want to thank EOS Detroit for sponsoring this event. If you don't have one of these, please grab one. If you're kind of new to technology, to blockchain technology and cryptocurrency, we have explanation. We also have an explanation about what EOS is, this new blockchain, and who EOS Detroit is. And we also thank you. We also have hats available in the back that you can just grab one. We would love for you to have one and wear it around town and share the EOS love. Tomorrow we're going to have Stack Magic, what are smart contracts and where they come from. This is going to probably be a very exciting conversation. Kennard Hockenhall, who's one of the founders of the Detroit Blockchainers Meetup, will be giving that talk tomorrow here at WeWork at 3 p.m. So we invite you to come to that. And I think that's about it. I'm Ingrid LaFleur. Thank you for coming.